This is the planning stage that I will be completing with Ms. Holda. And just to give you a preface, is we had the conversation with the grandma, and the grandma agreed to take the two older children, yet we could not find some resources for the baby. Emma was discharged from the hospital on August 15th, so we're about a week after the initial appointment. And so I'm conducting this visit in the home in Miss Holda's home while the kids are in their home with the grandmother, and then Emma is with foster parents. And so we're picking up for the planning stage at this time. Hi, Miss Holda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Thanks for meeting with me and taking the time out of your schedule. Boy, a lot has happened since I met you first at the hospital. And so, have you heard from your mom about how the kids are doing with her?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
They're having a little bit of trouble adjusting, but they're starting to settle in.
Okay. What would you say are some of the adjustment challenges that they're having?
Just being in a new area, not really knowing anyone, and adjusting to their new rooms and all of that.
Because your mom lives in the city,
yes.
right? And,
yeah, she lives in the city.
Okay, all right. Have you been able to get over to see them?
I've seen them once.
Okay, all right. And how did that go?
I think it went fairly well. They were asking a lot of questions, like when they could come home and things of that sort.
Okay. And I'm just curious, what do you tell them?
I tell them as soon as possible. As soon as I have everything ready for them.
Okay, all right. To what degree do you think your children know that you've used drugs, and that's why we're in the situation now? Does your daughter know that?
I think that she does know that there's something wrong, and I think that my mom has kind of explained to her that I'm sick.
Okay, all right.
I think it's the words that she'll use with her to tell her that I need to get better before she can come back.
Okay. You think that could be puzzling for your kids to really process, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking you is and my opinion is that I think kids, especially Ashley, she's 7 now, and Brandon is 5, that I think they deserve the right to know what's going on in a way that they could understand. So I don't know, I guess I would encourage you to be open with them about some of your struggles, and they've seen you use drugs, so it's not a surprise to them. So I'm just wondering if, in working with your counselor, that would be a possibility. I don't know, what are your thoughts about that?
It may be helpful for them. I hadn't really thought of it in that way before, but I could bring it up and see.
Yeah, I'm not pressuring you. Just I think that from my experience, that sometimes when kids don't know what's going on, it just creates more anxiety for them. How you were able to meet Emma's foster parents, the Glicks, and what do you think about them? And you've had, I think, 1 or 2 visits at the agency since then.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you're thinking about her being placed there, and
it feels strange
yeah.
to meet the people who are caring for my child. They seem very kind and willing to help and supportive in Emma returning to me eventually.
Okay.
And I feel good that she's with someone who knows how to take care of her medical needs right now.
Okay, so so you recognize that that would be the best place for her at this time, so that you can take care of your own needs.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have court coming up in a couple days, and you did apply for your attorney. Your attorney's going to be there. Are you planning to come to the court hearing? I think that's tomorrow afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning to come?
I am.
Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about what you can expect to happen then is we will present the case as you and I talked about that and some of the options that we presented, and I'll be able to report the facts about the situation that came to the agency's attention, or a conversation, 2 older kids with your grandma and Emma in foster care. And the purpose of the court hearing is to really determine is there enough information for Emma to remain in foster care at this time. You obviously can meet with your attorney and present whatever your situation is and what your recommendations are. But the agency is going to be recommending that, at least for this time, Emma would remain in care until we would be able to get some services and see some more stability on your part. So I just wanted to tell you what we're going to be recommending, so there's no surprises at that time. So were you able to meet with your attorney in person?
Not yet.
Okay, so you'll meet with her either tomorrow or right before the hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just I want to tell you about the process. You'll show up there, and then we'll all go in, and I'll tell you where to stand, and your attorney will be there as well. So Emma will have an attorney that will be associated for her. That's called the guardian ad litem, and then the agency will have an attorney, and that will be presenting our case. And so I'll be called up to the stand, and I'll have to swear in and give a testimony about what actions the agency took, and give an update, and then your attorney will be able to ask me some questions. Now also Ed, who's Emma's father, will have an attorney present for him. I don't know if he's going to show up. We delivered the petition to his house, to the last known address that he had, and I don't know if he received the petition or not, so we didn't get evidence that he signed the affidavit of service. So if he shows up, then he might be there as well. So I don't know if you've had any contact with him. I'm certainly not going to encourage you to have contact with him, but did you have contact with him since last week?
He's tried to contact me, calling my phone.
Okay.
Things like that. But
Has he stopped by?
not yet. No.
Okay.
He went to the hospital before Emma was discharged. So.
Were you there when he was?
No.
Okay. So, and I think I talked to the social worker, and she said that you were able to get to the hospital about 3 times since leaving there. Some transportation issues that you've encountered with that. Okay. Were you there when when the Glicks met Emma? Were you able to be there for that?
No.
Okay. All right. And did you meet the Glicks at the hospital or at the agency? That we set that up? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you think about Mrs. Glick and her care of Emma when you saw her?
She seemed very capable.
Okay. Okay, so just to bring us up to date where we're at is we'll have the court hearing tomorrow, and then I just want to start having a conversation with you about, we talked a little bit about it last time, but about some goals that you have, and work on identifying what you think would be important for you to stabilize in your situation, so that we can work towards having Ashley and Brandon and Emma now back in your care. So I want to take some time to talk about that. Does that sound like a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't know. Do you have a time limit today? Do you have any appointments that?
No.
Okay. All right. Good. So what I have is a treatment plan here, and just has some specific types of goals, but I'm curious to hear from you. Besides the goals that we identified last time, have you thought of any other goals? And let me just read these to you. You have take care of children, provide a home for them, a consistent job, and then be off drugs. Those are the goals that you identified last time. Have there been any other concerns that have come to your awareness that we can pay attention to?
I think I want to maybe start to have a conversation with my sister to resolve
Okay.
that relationship.
Okay. All right. So that's good. Things with your mom are doing all right. Initially, I think there was a little bit of a tension that was going on there, but you're pleased with how she's caring for Ashley and Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
even in the midst of them having some transitions and some challenges there.
Yeah, I am pleased.
Okay. And we're gonna have to get them enrolled in school. They're gonna have to change schools at this
Yeah.
time. So I'd like to keep you engaged with that process. I know I've been working with your mom too. I went out to their house. The kids looked like they were doing well, but she might need some help to register them in school, especially with Brandon now going from kindergarten to first grade. So he might need some help. So that sounds like that's something that would be important for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a couple areas that I'd just like to talk to you about, and I'd like to hear from you if you think this is a strength for you or you need to maybe refine these or get some more help on. So the first area is the area of income. Do you think that's a strength that you have now, or is that an area of need for you?
Need.
A need. And if you could communicate that in words as a need, what would a goal be for you? What would you like to see accomplished in that area?
I would like to see more consistent income.
And before, when we met, I think that you were going to apply for welfare benefits.
I did.
And you did, and you got some income coming in. Do you know who your income worker is? Your welfare worker?
I think his name is Josh.
Okay. Do you happen to know his last name?
Wilson?
Okay. All right, good. So the more consistent income, would that be, are you thinking about going back to work at Linden?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Linden would be the best option for me
Okay.
right now. I know that I have a job there,
Okay,
so I can go back.
okay.
I just don't know if I should.
Originally, we were thinking about with if Emma would be with you, you would have like that 6 weeks off. But now that Emma's not with you, is that something that you think you would be able to start back at Linden and for some money to come in, or do you think the income that Josh has helped you get is that going to hold you over for a while?
I mean, it will hold me over for a little bit since I don't have any of the kids in the house.
Okay.
But it might be beneficial to pick up some shifts at Linden.
Okay. All right. But long term, you're not thinking that Linden is something that you'd like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good. What about your housing and the living arrangement that you have here? Is that a strength or is that a need?
Well, the landlord still hasn't said if he's selling or not, so it's still up in the air
Okay.
whether or not I'll have to move. And there's also the concern of Ed coming back.
Okay.
So I don't know if I should just move.
Okay. What do you think space-wise with 3 kids and you in a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, it's not a lot of space.
Okay, so it sounds like that might be a need for us to take a look at over the next period of weeks or so.
Yeah.
To look at. So if you would identify a goal, how would you what would you want? What would you want to see in that area of housing?
I'd like to move into a bigger apartment.
Okay. Any type of location? Because you're in like the Lidditz area now, so you wanna stay in this area or move closer to your mom where there's resources?
Yeah. Since the kids are going to be changing schools, I think that if I'm going to move, I should move closer to that area so that they don't have to change schools again.
Okay.
And then I would be closer to my mom as well.
So there are more options available for housing in the city, and we might be able to find some programs that might be able to help you with subsidized rent there. All right, good. What about your education? The last time you talked, you said that you did not have your GED. I'm not sure if you thought more about that, if that's a strength or a need for you to work on.
I think that it's a need, but I'm not sure if right now is the time to work on it.
Okay, all right. So what would you say, a strength, need? Not sure. Is that something that you want to maybe put on the back burner?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what about transportation? Strength or a need?
Well, my car is not really reliable, so there would be a need, but it's not the top needs.
That could be something that could possibly be an emergency need if it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah.
But you do know how to take the bus
Mm-hmm.
so you are familiar with that.
Yes.
So maybe a goal could be something like having securing reliable transportation, which could be public transportation, it could be a car.
Yeah.
It certainly is easier, and that's another benefit of being in the city with public transportation, to be able to get that. Okay, what about your medical? Now, I think the last time we talked, you were having possible infection. They were concerned about that.
Yes.
Have you heard anything more about that?
I did have to go back to the hospital.
Okay.
Because of it. So
Okay.
there were complications.
Okay. Did they place you on some medication?
Yes, antibiotics.
Okay. All right. So it's running its course now, the antibiotics. So how are you feeling? Like how is it compared to when you were in the hospital?
It's better now, but it was alarming before I went into the hospital. So
Okay.
I didn't know what was wrong.
Okay. Now, is that something that you will follow up with Dr. Potter at Southeast? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it still sounds like that might be a need, not only the present, but moving forward for ongoing medical care. What are your thoughts about birth control? What are you going to be doing in that area?
I'll probably get the shot, the 5
Depo?
year, yeah,
Okay.
the 5-year shot.
Okay. All right. So so a goal for your medical health would just be to maintain your maintain your health. And Dr. Potter at Southeast Lancaster Health Services. Okay. What about any type of legal changes for you? Did you find out that you're not on probation?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not on probation anymore.
Okay. So anything new since we last talked?
Mm-mm.
So that sounds like that's a strength there. That's you don't have any of those concerns. Yeah, good. I know as a parent, it's hard to understand like recreation or leisure time, but how is that area of your life? Is that a strength or a need for you to have like time by yourself or recreation?
Yeah, I don't really have much time to myself when I have the kids, but now I have a lot of downtime.
Okay.
But there's not much in that area other than when I was using, like,
Okay.
just going out with coworkers and people from Linden and stuff like that.
All right, so let's talk about that. So, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not so much, 10 being really high, what is your urge to use drugs since we last talked? Again, 1 being low, 10 being high.
It's probably a 6 or 7.
Okay.
It's just very, very stressful right now with all the kids in different places and
Sure.
not having really anyone around except for my mom.
Yeah.
So
So it gives you some free time to maybe do some things creative or some things destructive. And have you used any illegal substances or alcohol since we last met?
I haven't.
Okay, all right. So if I recall correctly, when we were at the hospital and the social worker was giving you information about the shelter for abused women, she also provided you information about White Deer Run and their detox program. And I think you participated in that. It was like a 24, 48 hour, and so how you went through that, and I think they recommended, if I'm correct, they recommended for you to have ongoing outpatient treatment at Lancaster Freedom Center.
Yes.
All right, and that's something that our agency can help facilitate and follow up with that. So that's something for you to be able to continue with. Do you think that that's going to give you a new support system there with meeting individuals who have either gone through addiction or are going through some of those challenges?
I think so. I think hopefully I'll find some people to relate to, and who have the same goal as I do.
What about NA or AA groups?
I called my friend Deb from Linden, who goes to NA, and I went with her to one meeting so far.
Okay, all right. So she's been going on a regular basis, so she was able to introduce you to the her contacts there, and you think you're going to go back?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it doesn't sound like you have a lot of recreation or leisure time, but it sounds like if we develop a social support network that could benefit you, that you could call upon in times of need, that would be beneficial for you. So I'll circle that as a need at this time. And what do you think a goal with that could be for you for recreation and leisure or social?
I could try to spend time with Deb outside of NA, or try to make some connections with the new program.
Okay, all right, great. And what is Deb's last name?
Smith.
The last time we talked is I asked you questions about anxiety and depression, and in the past you had some struggles with anxiety. Would you say that your mental health is, you think that's a strength at this time, or that still is a need?
It's probably still a need.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you like to see as a goal, or what would you like to see differently in your life?
Less anxious thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, have a lot of racing thoughts.
All right. Are you addressing some of that in your counseling at Lancaster Freedom Center?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I heard that you say that your substance abuse is still a need for you to maintain sobriety and not using illegal substances, all right? You talked somewhat about your family relationships. Would you say that your family relationships that's a strength, or is that a need right now for you?
I think my relationship with my mom is a strength, and my sister is a need.
Do you have any ideas about how you would like to work on that?
I've talked a little bit about it in counseling.
Okay.
Looking for different ways to connect with Bethany and maybe have a session with her. But I'm not quite ready for that.
What is your counselor's name at the Freedom Center?
Her name is Jen.
And do you know her last name?
What is her last name?
I know there's a Jen Arnold, and then there's a Jen Miller there.
Miller, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she's been there for a while. I've worked with her before. Good. All right. Any additional social supports that you would like to be able to cultivate? We talked about perhaps meeting with Deb, meeting up with your sister, more work on that relationship, and with your mom. Any other supports?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other goals that you'd like to work on personally?
I'd like to see more independence for me, to be able to work on my own and not have to be on assistance, and to have more stability.
Okay. And what are some ideas that you have about some goals that you'd like to work on in that area?
Probably start searching for a different job.
Okay.
A more reliable job. Look into finding some sort of financial, like someone who can help me with a budget, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe open up a savings account
Okay.
or something.
All right. All right, that's great. Okay, so if I can summarize what we talked about is I see the income and as a need at this time, as you communicated. You'd like to have more consistent income, and you just follow that up with some of that independence. I'm going to consider giving you information on a program. It's called Labor Ready, and they do some job placement testing, as well as some possible temporary work. So I could give you some information about that. Your housing and living arrangement is a need, and your goal is to move into a bigger apartment closer to your mother. There's a program in our community called Tabor Community Services, and that's a really good community service that looks at housing, but it also does budgeting. They have a budgeting program and some career counseling as well. So that's something that we could check into. I can give you information about that. Your education, well, you thought you weren't quite sure if that's a strength or need. I mark that as a strength because it's not really impacting on your life right now. So that's not really anything that we need to pay attention to. In the transportation area, you identified this as a need, and your goal would be to secure reliable transportation. I think we'll just play that by ear and see if anything comes up. I know that there are some programs through your assistance worker who might be able to hook you up with work, Wheels to Work, I think the program is called. So in case that you get a job and you need some assistance with that. So if you need to participate in that program, he would be a person to contact about that. Your medical is still a need that you have identified, and the goal would be to maintain your health, and if we can continue to make contact with Dr. Potter and Southeast Lancaster Health Center, that would be good. Your legal services, there's no concerns in that area, so that would be a strength. Recreation, leisure time, and social supports. We talked about continuing to be involved with Deb, perhaps cultivating relationships at the NA meetings, and continuing to work with your relationship with your mom, specifically working through that on your end in counseling at the Lancaster Freedom Center, but also thinking about how to have different conversations with them. And Lauren, if I can give you some thought about something for you to consider is, I've worked with a fair amount of individuals who have used substances in the past and they've burned a lot of bridges. I think it's just going to take some time and you showing them that you're serious about your drug involvement. So I would expect some healing to take place in those relationships once you have more sobriety under your belt. Substance abuse, talking about that, is you completed the program at White Deer Run. That's great, and you're continuing to be involved with the Lancaster Freedom Center in their intensive outpatient program. I think they meet 4 or 5 times a week. I think it's pretty intensive there. I want to ask you this question because before we move on to the next, like talking about referrals, is there anything from a cultural standpoint that could interfere you from maybe making some progress? Anything that you want to tell me about how your family operates, or just the way that you see yourself interacting with the broader community here in Lancaster County? Do you feel like you fit in pretty well? Any cultural considerations I need to be aware of?
I think I fit in fairly well.
Okay.
My family, we seem like a pretty average family.
Okay.
I think things changed after my dad died, for sure, and so there's still a little bit of miscommunication there and some unresolved things. I think that's why maybe my sister is kind of closed herself off a little bit.
Okay, all right. Some of the places, I like to ask that question because some of the places that exist in our community, because it has a very rich faith-based tradition, some of the influences of the providers might have more of a faith-based slant to that. So I don't want to refer you to a program that maybe not be aligned with where you're thinking, but so if that ever becomes a problem, I'd just like you to let me know in terms of that, and we can look at other providers. So this is a copy of the plan. If you want to take a couple moments and look through that, and then I'd like to hear from you if you have any questions about what's written there. I basically review the information with you, but if you have any questions for me that I can explain, I'd like to hear from you. Okay, so if you can look at that one column, right there it says referral places. I have some information there that I'd like to record for you, which is called the consent form. So in order for me to put a referral in, I have to have your permission to be able to talk to them about your situation. And then in order for me to obtain information from that organization, I need you to give them permission to be able to release that to me as well. Now, when you go to these organizations, they're going to have their own consent procedure to complete there on their end. So I just want to walk through so we can start working on this. Walk through a release of information form for some of those providers that are there. So I'll walk you through what this is, and I'll give you a copy of this so you can see what I'm filling out. And your date of birth again is 4/28,
yes.
you said? And
94.
94, okay. So the first place that I'd like to refer you to is a place called Tabor Community Services. Now, I do know that that is faith-based, the nonprofit organization. They do get some government funding for some of the services for some of their homeless population. I'm not saying that you're homeless, but they have credit counseling, they have budget programs, and they have some criteria for admission, but it is a faith-based organization. So are you okay with checking that out, at least making some contact with them?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go there, I'm just going to check. If you look on your form, it says to whom it may concern. I said I hereby authorize the release and I hereby authorize the receipt from Tabor Community Services. For the purpose of, I'm just going to put budgeting here. And they do housing as well. I forgot about that. So I'll put housing. That was a need that you talked about as well. And then it says such information may be transmitted under the conditions stated below and or as required by federal or state statute or ordered by the court. This release will be effective for a period of 90 days from the date signed below and will expire on. So 90 days from today is 17th, August, September, October, November. So November 17th, 2017. So really what we want to do is look at, if you look under there, those places that I'm going to check, I'm going to check other, and I'm going to write in here budgeting and housing. And the information is what you'll be signing. What I'm going to ask you is to review and then sign is this information has been disclosed to you from records whose confidentiality is protected by state law. State regulations prohibit you from making any further disclosure of this information without prior written consent of the person to whom it pertains. This consent to release of information can be revoked at the written request of the person who gave the consent. And so at any time, if you no longer want to work work with Tabor, you can just write that on a piece of paper and give it to me, and then I'll revoke your consent as well. Okay? So any questions about that? Okay. So I'll just ask you to sign by the star there that I marked, and I'll go ahead and sign and date this as well. And here's a pen for that. Okay, so the next that I want to talk to you about is we talked about the White Deer Run and the Lancaster Freedom Center. So I'm going to put your name here, and it's 4/28/94, and so releasing and receipt from White Deer Run. And for your, you were there for a 48-hour, and that was for a detox.
Yeah.
Detox, okay. 90 days from now is 11/17/17, and that is discharge summary that I want from that. Treatment summary, any type of treatment, and substance abuse treatment history that you've had right there. Again, right where the star is, and I'll go ahead and sign this. Oops, today is the 8th of August. I put 11.
Oh.
Okay. So you can take a look at that and sign that. Okay, and I forget what other, Southeast Lancaster Health Services. We're just gonna do SELHS for the purpose of medical history. Records. Okay, so that's again just the medical records from Southeast Lancaster Health Services. So we got White Deer Run, we got Tabor Community Services. Now the other one that I want to, the final one, is the Lancaster Freedom Center, because you're in your ongoing treatment there. I hope you're able to read my handwriting. My handwriting is not the best. And so it's 11, 17, 17. I don't know if I didn't mark that one. 11, 17 expires one. And that was substance abuse treatment history. And that's Lancaster Freedom Center for your substance abuse treatment history. So if you want to sign that. Okay, great. So the next time I see you, I will provide you with copies of all this documentation. I'll actually go back in the office, type it up, and send this out to you. I'll actually bring it to court hearing tomorrow when I see you. And be able to give you a copy of this, and this is actually will be good for your attorney to see that what we talked about as well. And then what we'll do then in a couple weeks, this has to be taken to the judge as well once all the signatures are received. So I'm not going to ask you to sign this right now. I'm going to ask you tomorrow at court if you're interested in signing this, once you have an opportunity to review this with your attorney. So I'll meet you at the court hearing, because I don't want to think that I'm coercing you to do anything, but I think it's important for you to review these documents with your attorney before signatures are signed. So I'll give this, I'll give you the copy of this tomorrow at the court hearing, and then we can review this, and if there's any changes that need to be made, we can do that tomorrow, okay? I want to talk to you about what questions you might have about sort of next steps of what we're looking at.
So, all of those places that I released to, are you setting up appointments for them, or should I?
So what I'll do later today, and hopefully I'll be able to get in contact with them today, maybe if not tomorrow morning before the court hearing, is to be able to talk to them about what is their procedure for intake. And so when I meet with you tomorrow, I'll be able to tell you, go ahead and call this person, this is what they can provide to you, but I would not be able to call them unless I have your consent. So they're probably going to want to see a copy of that, so I can simply fax that over to them so that they can have that, and then I can start talking to them about your situation. And then after tomorrow, we can start working on what does that look like in terms of what services. You're already engaged in Lancaster Freedom Center services, so that's just me obtaining some updates about your status. White Deer Run is already ended, so that's just a matter of getting those records. I do want you to make sure that you're continuing with your medical health, though. So just talking to the medical providers over there to make sure if there's any concerns for you as well. And that's where you're taking your daughter as well, Emma, for follow-up, aren't you? You're following up with her there, so we will be able to gather that information as well. And then the next time that we get together after the court hearing, we'll start working on some of these areas. But you're already engaged in drug and alcohol treatment, which is the primary concern that I think will help you to achieve your goals of getting your kids back sooner rather than later. Okay. Any other questions that you might have for me at this time?
That's it.
Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow at the court hearing,
Mhm.
and then we'll see what the results are, what the judge says at this time, but you're making great progress in just the short period of time that we've made. I think it's again going to be important for you to keep Ed away from here and taking those steps to keep him away, and then making sure that your kids are safe and continuing with your visits with Emma at the agency and at your mom's house. So I'll see you tomorrow at the court hearing, then we can talk about the next appointment.
Okay.
we have. Okay.
Sounds good.